Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
So long overdue. It's one of those things where like sometimes the people I spend the most time with, I don't think to actually like schedule with. So here we are. We're here.
We are here. It's official. We made it happen. And it's funny because I was like, I would love to go on Alex's podcast, but I never said anything to you about it. I was like, it'll happen when it happens. And I just love that because obviously we see each other. We live minutes from each other, which is like such an incredible, beautiful gift and such a dream. But it's just good that we were able to sit down and be intentional about our conversations. It's great.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to getting to know you more as well. Because I feel like, okay, so let's start with the intro because I was thinking, you are one of my incredibly close friends, but when I was thinking how to introduce you, I was like, I actually don't even know how to introduce you because I feel like you're multifaceted. And I also feel like you've been going through this, what I would describe from the outside looking in as like a rebirth. So who is Jenna as you sit here today in this moment at this point of your life?
I love that question. As I'm emerging into this next chapter of my life, I'm a highly sought after speaker, performer, and facilitator who transforms people's lives from stage with music and powerful insight and incredible stories that have really paved the path for my leadership and the impact that I'm making. So I have a lot of stories. I was sharing a couple of my life stories with a woman yesterday, and she started crying, and she just had no idea. And we work out together. We work out together once a week, and she had no idea that I'd woken up from a coma, that I am a sexual trauma survivor ×2. She didn't know these things about me, but we really got to unpack how these things happen for us in our life in such a way that it really governs who we're meant to be for other people. I don't believe that anything happens just because it just happens. I think that everything happens in a way that creates an opportunity for us to rise up and really utilize our life experiences, and we're meant to learn from everything we encounter. And so, yeah, there's nothing that I will not talk about. For all of you listening, she's like, is there anything that you won't talk about? And I said, no, I'll talk about anything. She's like, what about this? And I'm like, no, I'll literally talk about anything and everything. There's nothing I won't share on social media.
You do your English literally. I love when you do that.
Literally. I'll bust it out every once in a while. I might do a couple more other accents on here, but we'll see.
I just want to double down on what you just said, because I think it's very easy in the world of social media to say things like, I change people's lives and things like this. I just want to say firsthand how true this is for you, because I see how powerful the work is that you do through the various ways that you do it, through your music, through your programs, things like this. But also, I have been there when you launched your album and you did this visualization, and I've done a lot of fucking visualizations, of course, like love this shit.
Yeah.
That was one of the most powerful experiences I've ever had. And I know, because I know these people firsthand now, you literally change people's lives in that room just through that visualization. Like people move their entire lives based on that visualization. That is incredible.
I love that so much, because one of my closest girlfriends, Sarah Pendrick, I've known each other for years. She's one of my best friends, and I've been trying to get her to move here for so long. And I was like, I'm just going to surrender and trust and let it happen however it's meant to happen. And when she flew out here for the album release party, because she's such a supporter of mine. She and her husband had this vision. It was like this collective vision about what would it look like for us to be here in Austin, have this amazing tribe and community all around us. And so it was just a really powerful divine, thank you, Spirit, thank you, God, thank you, universe. It was a really powerful divine intervention. And so it was really great. And then also Natalie had a really powerful visualization as well in that. And it was really cool to see people giving themselves permission to stretch their imagination, because really that's what that meditation is all about, is give yourself full permission to witness whatever happens in your mind's eye, and just know that if you're seeing it, then it's already happening on a different timeline. And I really believe in the power of being able to collapse timelines and jump timelines and really just start to show up as the future version of yourself, versus waiting until you accomplish all these other things so that you can then be confident, so that you can then be outspoken, so you can then be a leader, so that you can then be qualified. And I think that it's the gap between where we think we are to where we're wanting to go. It's that we focus so much on the gap that it only pushes out that timeline even more.
Yeah.
And we think linearly. We don't think that everything's happening all at the same time. We don't think that everything's happening in a cyclical manner.
Yeah.
Everything's happening literally at the same time at all times, because all we have is right now. And we get caught up in this, I have so much further to go. I have so many more things to accomplish. I have so many more things, so many other ways I need to basically be qualified or establish myself as a leader. Someone is that whole impostor syndrome that really gets in the way of people living their fullest life. And there is no there. That's the thing, is we think that there are all these things we must accomplish in order to become whole, complete, and enough. And that's what ultimately stops people from living fully out.
Yeah. Oh my God, I so get that. And I can see that in my own journey. And I just want to speak to that on a personal level as well, where I can see it really clear at the beginning of my journey. There was this moment where I was just like, I have fucking nothing to lose. Like, I just have to start living as that now rather than waiting. But I also feel like it hits you when you move through different levels.
Yeah.
So I'm curious for you, and I want to dive into this deeper in a moment, but like, I'm curious for you, you have emerged, I want to say, is the word that comes to mind, as this artist, this incredibly powerful artist. Has any of that, noticing the gap, like waiting, did any of that play into your artistry when you were going into that?
Of course. And I believe that we're meant to learn the very thing that we're here to teach, and so, which is ultimately what gets in the way of a lot of people, because they're like living this experience and they're up against their edges and they're doubting themselves, and then they feel like an imposter, then they feel like a fraud. And how can I ever teach about living free and being fully self-expressed when I am holding on to my art because I'm afraid of people judging it or whatever? And that was one of the biggest things. That's why it took so long for me to get my music out there. Got these downloads. I channeled these mantras, I want to say almost 5 years ago, when I was pregnant with Jax. And I had this really powerful vision of creating and offering this abundance course for women. And because I knew on the other side of giving birth, I was like, I just want to be in mom mode. I don't want to have to think about anything. And so 5 weeks before Jax was born, I launched a 4-week abundance course.
Oh my God.
Went in the studio. It's just insane. So I think back, I'm like, what was I thinking? And I clearly wasn't. It's that whole just being fully naive and just not knowing any different. But it was amazing. I went to the studio. I channeled these 4 different mantras, and I didn't have any plans. I didn't have any notes. I just closed my eyes and spoke into the mic and channeled these mantras, one take. And around what I channeled through me, there was original music that was created to go with these mantras. And then I developed a chorus around what I channeled and launched it. I had 75 women do it. It was amazing. It was awesome. And then I shelved it, and I was just focusing on being a mom and black mold toxicity and how sick I got and Brad got, and really challenging. And then COVID, and then uprooting our lives and moving our headquarters to Austin and launching our business all over again. So there's a lot that was going on between the time of creating, downloading, manifesting these mantras and the chorus. And then when I was pregnant with Jet, I had all this creativity moving through me, and I was really having this vision of putting my music on Spotify. And I said, the songs are great. Like they perform a function. Obviously, I've created these cool videos, visual aids, and it's really great for the women who do this chorus. But I said, it's not Spotify worthy. I mean, I wouldn't play this on my way to the gym. I wouldn't be working out and listening to this. I wouldn't dance and move my body listening to this music, but I want it to be an absolute banger. I want people to hear these songs, and in the first 3 seconds they're like, what is this? And now their soul is on this whole journey, on this ride. And I went to the producer who made the original tracks with me, and I said, I'm super inspired by Odessa. I sent him a bunch of different tracks, a lot of bass, and just really just so good. And he heard that, and he got really clear on my vision. And so we went back and forth for 2 years before the album was complete. And the first song was done, and I was dripping the songs as singles, which is so cool. And like new single out, and the single's dropping tomorrow, and I just felt like an ultimate artist, an actual legitimate artist.
I mean, you were, in my eyes, you're a full pop star.
Well, I feel that way. I've stepped into it. So it was just really fun to play with that and really step into that archetype. But my first song was done for, I think, 2 or 3 months before I actually officially launched it. And that song is called Permission, which is, you are worthy of being all that you are. You're worthy of having the life that you want. You're worthy of going after your dreams. You're worthy of manifesting. You're able to manifest. You're able to create. You're literally capable of causing and generating the life that you want. And meanwhile, I'm fucking holding on to this song, feeling like a complete fraud and imposter. And a friend of mine said, hey, what's up with your music? And I said, the first song is done. And he's like, you're not getting any younger. And I go, okay, yes, thank you. Not lying. So I literally called the producer after that, and I said, we got to put this song up. We got to release it. I don't know what I'm holding on to. I'm just afraid. And the story that I made up was, I don't know how to release music. I don't know how to be an artist and get my music out there. And what if my mom and my grandma and my aunt are literally the only people who listen to the song, and it completely flops and it's a disaster? And I was thinking about the worst case scenario, but I wasn't also considering the best case scenario. And just releasing that song was such a huge thing for me. And it also gave other people permission to get in the studio and publish their book. And the stories that the messages that I get from people who are so inspired by me putting it out there and claiming that I'm an artist. It's never too late to start a music career. I'm 41, I got 2 kids.
And you're hot.
Thank you, I will receive that. But it's never too late. And of course, a lot of people will think, well, it's too late. I'm in my 40s. And if you're going to be a successful artist, you need to start and get after it in your 20s. And that's your window of opportunity. And I just want all of you who are listening to just know that it's never too late to create the frequency of the life that you imagine. And I think if people are chasing money and they're chasing this outcome, that's really not what they're chasing. What they're wanting is the frequency and the experience and the feeling of what it's like to have X amount of money. Because it's then, what does the money provide you? Well, money is a tool. The money provides you an opportunity to invest in yourself at higher capacity, to travel, to experience things in a way that feels really good. And so there are ways to create that environment without needing to have X amount in order for you to feel a certain way.
This is so true. I wonder if like money is almost like, I almost see it as like this journey that you have to go through. And I do wonder if money is almost like a portal that you have to walk through, where you have to experience the desire for the money and think it's about the money. And then you get to the other side and you're like, oh, it's not about the money. Right. But until you've gone through that portal, it can feel really irritating for people to say, because like I remember having no money and then being in this place of needing to manifest money, or thinking I needed to manifest money. No, I did need to. I was in my own place. And then people say, the money doesn't matter. And you're like, that's so easy for you to say. Sure. I'm like renting out my house at the weekends and working 5 jobs and like doing all these things. But I feel like it's not until you go through that portal and get to the other side that you can be like, oh no, it wasn't. Like actually I can create a life based around those experiences, based around what it is that I want to feel. Like I know now when I'm thinking about what I want to manifest, the frequency that you're talking about feels so much more important. And also like I worked out as well, so many people manifest what they want, not through money. Right. So if you want to travel and have travel experiences, there's 1,000,001 ways that you can spend your life traveling that doesn't involve you actually manifesting the money to travel all the time. Yeah, that's right. And it's also, I'm sure you've had this experience where you're getting on a plane and they're like, oh, we just so happen to have 2 extra first class seats available. Would you like to be upgraded for no cost? Those things happen. I haven't had that experience, but I would like to just drop that into the universe. There. Universe, I'm available for being upgraded to first class without paying a single dime. I'm very available. But those things happen. And I've had experiences like that where when we claim that we are abundant and we operate from that place, I believe that true abundance is just simply identifying that I am abundant. And abundance can look like having more money than normal, but it's really just the environment that you put yourself in and how we get to get creative, because we have an infinite amount of resources to create the environment that we desire. Yeah. And it doesn't necessarily mean having a shit ton of money. It can look like that. That may be an aspect of it. And here's the thing, money is important. We must have it, we must utilize it, we must create it, we must generate it, we must manifest it in order to basically have basic needs, in order to live a life of health and wellness. And having access to more money allows us to serve at a higher capacity. So there's nothing wrong with wanting money. There's nothing wrong with desiring more things. Yeah. But I think the part that is the most challenging for people is thinking that those are the things that will bring them happiness and contentment. But none of that will guarantee happiness. We hear about all the time people who they get a big house and then they want a bigger house and they want a bigger house and then another car and then another car. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's okay to desire things and it's okay to have nice things. But what creates this perpetual need for more is that they're not looking within themselves and creating contentment and gratitude for what they already have. And so that's the struggle. And then that's when you meet people who are just
super wealthy and very famous and they've made some kind of a big impact, but they're miserable and they're lacking joy. They're lacking fulfillment. They don't have connection in their relationships and they're not available for their kids. They're not present and engaging and they buy their kids stuff and they're off working so they can create more. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges with people thinking that abundance means having a lot of stuff. And having a lot of stuff can be a byproduct of abundance, but that's not what abundance necessarily means. I believe that abundance is a mindset, and prosperity is ultimately what gets manifested because of your ability to be abundant.
I love this conversation. I think it's so juicy. And I think the thing that spoke to me there as well was this trying to like manifest more to fill this gap. And I think that's the natural tendency to do. I had this realization recently. I was at the John Wyland training and I was with Jake and we were actually in a really good place when we went. And one of the things that I had such a realization around was like, I am used to manifesting from lack. That's not to say I come from a place of lack. Like I know how to fill my own cup, know I'm worthy, know that whatever I manifest outwardly isn't going to shift me internally as a person. But what I mean by that is I would look to the areas that weren't maybe performing as well as the others and think I need to double down on that area at the cost of thinking, okay, what's actually going really well in my life? How can that get even better? And I think it's such a realization, like we can welcome more, but more doesn't always have to come from a place of lack. It can come from a place of fullness. And then it gets really juicy because if you, on the personal level, if you see yourself as full and complete, what can you manifest from that place?
That's right.
But then if you also look at your life and say, that's going really well, how can it get even better? That's really juicy as well. And I feel like you're such an embodiment of that because you have this full, juicy life and you're like, fuck it, I want to be an artist.
Yeah.
Like, I want to make my fucking music.
Totally.
And it wasn't like there was a lack there. It was like this juicy, I'm capable of this. I want to put this out into the world.
I saw it as also me living my stand for people because and the whole thing about the music, I wanted to be a musician when I was a little girl. I wanted to have a band called the Burning Logs. And I didn't have the stewardship to really support me in creating that. I mean, I lived in a little tiny ski village town and, you know, taking music lessons and all that.
Is this where you got the title The Burning Logs from?
More than likely. I was surrounded by absolute massive, gigantic pine trees, so probably. And we always had a wood burning stove in our house. So it was a big part of my childhood and campfires and all of that. But I really wanted to be a musician, and I wrote some songs and I saw myself with a microphone on stage and performing, and I would put on skits for my parents all the time. And I remember reading one of my songs to my parents, and my experience of them in that moment is that they weren't interested, they weren't excited, they weren't fanning my flames. They weren't like, oh, this is the most amazing song ever, and yes, baby, let's go for it, and yes, you can do it. And I probably caught them in a time that wasn't opportunistic because they were cooking and whatever, but that was my interpretation, was that, oh, they don't believe in me and they don't want to support me. And so I just started playing sports because my dad was an athlete, and I thought that was going to be the thing that was going to have him feel like I was enough, and I was just wanting my dad's attention and his approval. And because I didn't care about sports, I wasn't that good, so I was never starting players. And then I got to be right about the fact I'll never be enough for my dad, so then I ultimately became an overachiever. And eventually, you know, started training celebrities in Los Angeles. I was a celebrity trainer for about 10 years. And
I love that you did. This is such like another life to me.
I have so many different lives. I feel like I've lived a million. But yeah, for 10 years, I was a spinning instructor and just loved that, and worked with a lot of really great people, awesome celebrities, really powerful people who had massive impact and influence. And I realized through the work that I was doing with them it was beyond their fitness. Like it was beyond having their bodies be in amazing shape. It was the work that I was doing with them in our sessions ultimately started to shift the way they were showing up in their relationships and started to shift the culture in their business. I.e., I worked with the Marciano family, the founders of Guess, for about 8 years. And the culture at Guess started to shift because of the work that I was doing with the CEO of Guess. And I just really loved that family so much. And so I saw an opportunity for me to serve the world at a higher capacity, to make an even bigger impact. And I got to the place in my career where I realized I'm just collecting a paycheck and this is no longer my passion. I'm not jumping out of bed and so excited to train my clients at 6 a.m. I am super clear that there has got to be something else out there for me so that I can really step into my own personal leadership. And I was noticing that there was a lack of fulfillment. There was a gap. I was no longer in complete immense gratitude for what I was doing for work. And so I wound up going through a series of emotional intelligence and somatic workshops and trainings and seminars, and really became really passionate about that work. And this is about 13, almost 14 years ago, that my life really shifted, because I realized, oh my gosh, this is actually the work I want to be doing. I want to get inside of people's whole subconscious and their mind and their limitations and their fears. And obviously that was showing up in a lot of ways in the work I was doing with my personal fitness clients. But yeah, I made this transition. I started to really get passionate about supporting people in knowing that they can create and cause whatever they want. But this drive for wanting to support people and motivate and inspire them happened when I woke up from a coma after a head trauma accident. And that was life-changing for me. It completely got me on the path of really wanting to motivate and inspire people.
Okay, hang on. I want to dive into this. Okay. So I love that you just dropped that in casually. I woke up from a coma and then I want to go back.
Okay.
Talk us through what happened. Like the build up. So the build up before you've started to take these seminars, what happens that leads you to the point where you're waking up from a coma in the hospital?
Okay, so when I was in high school, I was in this phase where I was really depressed. I was experiencing a lot of really dark, deep thoughts that really didn't feel good. And I made up this story that I didn't have any friends, that I didn't fit in, that I didn't matter, that I'm not cool enough, my clothes aren't cool enough, I'm not funny enough. I never felt like I fit in anywhere. That was really like the story that I had created. And I was bullied a lot in middle school and high school. So I had a really challenging time at this phase of my life. And then my parents got divorced, and that was really hard for me. And my senior year, when I was 17, I was self-medicating. I was taking pills and drinking alcohol, smoking weed every day, smoking cigarettes every day, just not taking care of myself. And at this point, I wasn't playing sports anymore. I wasn't eating well. I didn't know anything about good energy in, energy out. I just wasn't health conscious. And I would lay in bed at night and I would obsess about being able to witness my own funeral. Like I literally was asking the universe. I said, oh my gosh, it'd be so amazing if I could just see my own funeral, because the story that I made up was nobody would come. And I got curious around who would actually show up to my funeral, like who would actually be there, who would miss me, who would mourn my death. And this visual was very depressing because there wasn't a big turnout at my funeral. And so I then got curious around how can I change that, and what does that look like, and how can I create a bigger impact, and how can I make a deeper meaning on people's lives, and how can I create that with people. And so then I shifted my thinking and I thought, okay, what if I could be in some kind of an accident? Because I don't actually want to die, but what if I could be in some kind of an accident that would be serious enough for me to be in the ICU? I was very specific about that. And I said, is it going to be a car accident? No, because I feel like that would be really painful. I don't know what kind of accident it would be, but some kind of an accident that would be serious enough for me to be in the hospital. And this was right around, I had a semester left in high school. I was really depressed, and I got this grand idea to throw the biggest party of the year. I thought maybe that would pull me out of my depression.
Yeah.
And we had Winter Ball coming up, and so I decided to throw the biggest, most gigantic, most ridiculous, over-the-top party ever. And I invited literally everybody, so I was expecting like 300 people to show up to this party.
Yeah.
And we were decorating. We were in the hayloft. We had this barn on our property. I was living with my stepdad and my mom and our blended family. And we're up in the hayloft, and my stepdad comes in and he looks up and he says, this is really dangerous. He said, there's this big opening in the floor. We should probably put up a railing. And I said, oh yeah, definitely. Because the party was going to be tomorrow night.
Yeah.
And we're hanging sheets on the ceiling and hanging lights and sweeping and cleaning. And I'm walking backwards. I have a sheet above my head. I'm walking backwards. And that's the last thing I remember. I could literally draw you a picture of the sheet that I was hanging. And so I fell through the opening in the floor, 14 feet, landed on my head on concrete, and was in a coma. I was instantly unconscious. I don't remember falling at all to this day. I have no recollection of that, which I'm really grateful for. Rushed to the hospital, in the ICU, in a coma. They're doing routine blood work on me. They discover I have a considerable amount of THC in my body. They're like, daughter's definitely was doing something before she fell. So there was that. Also, they discovered that I was type 1 diabetic. So that was something that I had no idea.
I didn't know you didn't know this.
I had no idea. I had no idea. And of course, after really getting in awareness around what diabetes is and what all these different symptoms are and what they all mean, I was like, oh, these depressed feelings and thoughts and the emotions and the way that I physically felt was actually elevated blood sugar levels. Because now when my blood sugar is high, I feel super low energy, lethargic. I could not get out of bed in the morning. And I just thought that I was just chalking it up as I'm depressed.
Yeah.
And of course, all the other things swirling around this time definitely did not support the self-medication and smoking weed every day and cigarettes and all of it. But it was really this compounded interest of just this whole experience that I didn't realize what was happening in my body. So anyway, I was in a coma, and my parents are briefed with the absolute worst case possible situation and scenario. And they said, Jenna is in a coma. She has swelling in her brain. We want to let you know that she probably will not wake up anytime soon. When and if she does, she will never be the same. And so the doctors were right about one thing, the fact that I would never be the same, because I woke up the next day, which was a complete miracle, because it actually then the swelling started to go down in my brain.
Yeah.
And but I woke up a different person. It was almost like I woke up with a different pair of glasses on, and I saw the world in a different way. I woke up just grateful and content and happy and joyful. And I was not kind to my stepdad because he wasn't my dad. And I don't remember this, but my parents told me that I reached over and grabbed his hand because he was in my hospital room when I woke up. And I reached over and said, "Hi, Frankie." And they're like, "Who are you? What have you done with Jenna? What's happening?" So I was different. I was just a different person. And I really started to, it was almost like my soul got an upgrade, or my spirit got an upgrade, or my subconscious got a reboot, or something happened. But I was a different person on the other side of waking up from my coma. And I was in the hospital for a week.
Yeah.
In the ICU, and they had to send people home. They had to turn people away because so many people had showed up to my hospital room. People had flown in from all over the country. I had friends and quote unquote friends who ditched school to come see me and visit me at school or at the hospital. And I kept forgetting why they were there because I had no short-term memory. I lost the majority of my vocabulary and had no way of, I would be having a conversation and then make up words and then forget what we were talking about. And I was so confused about a lot of I didn't realize why I was there. I kept forgetting why I was there. But what I did know is that I felt very loved and supported. And I didn't have this belief that I don't matter. I didn't have this belief that I'm not enough. And I remember this conversation that my doctor was having with my mom before we went home. And they were sitting in front of me and they were talking, they're having a conversation and not addressing me. And I was just really just being a bystander watching them have this conversation. And this doctor was basically attempting to secure my future and lay out this pathway for me. And basically, but through limitation, not infinite possibilities, not endless options available, but really from a place of limitation. I felt that in my body. And he was saying to my mom, "We think it's going to be really difficult for Jenna to graduate from high school on time. We don't think she should even try. And we know she has a semester left, but it's going to be really tough." And I was class of 2000. I'm like, I'm fucking walking with my class. I was like, you don't know me. I didn't say this because I couldn't think to put my thoughts into words. I was still learning how to do that. But I was like, you don't know me. Excuse my language. But that was my reality in that moment. I was really upset because I felt it's like, you want me to do something, just tell me I can't do it.
Yeah.
And that's how I've always been hardwired. When I was 2, I'd always say, I got it to my mom. She's like, we're late, we gotta go. And now, of course, Jet is doing that same exact thing. So karma is super fun. But that was my hardwiring system of, if I ever felt like someone would doubt me, I would double down on watch me do it. And so I was so committed to graduating with my class. I was so committed to finishing high school on time. I went home and I basically missed 3 weeks of school and went back to school and just busted my ass and applied myself and studied. And I had all these different assignments from my cognitive therapist where I had to unscramble 4-letter words. And it was so difficult. And I remember feeling so frustrated because I'm looking at this word, I'm looking at the word park mixed up, and I should know how to do this, but it was so hard for me. And I just remember feeling that sense of limitation, but that really drove me. That really inspired me to keep going. And I believe that's when I developed the muscle of resilience and how to be persistent. And we're always going to encounter challenges in our life. And it really comes down to a decision. If we make the decision, it's too hard, debt is too big, that mountain is too tall for me to climb, then we're absolutely going to be right about that. But if we are open to being supported by the universe in whichever way is going to be available for us, us, then we're open to infinite possibilities. And if we're so finite about something, like that doctor was being so finite, it's going to be too stressful. She shouldn't even try. Are you kidding me? Listen, dude, thank you. And no, I am going to graduate on time. And that's really when I learned the power of I am. And that really solidified a path for me to think powerfully and positively about anything. I mean, we can manifest anything. I literally manifested this head trauma accident so that the universe could show me that A, I matter, B, I'm enough, C, I have what it takes, and D, I can literally do, be, cause, create, generate anything I want if I put my mind to it. And that's when I learned the power of manifestation. I didn't know anything about law of attraction. I didn't know anything about the power of my thoughts, but it was really in that I discovered we can manifest anything, even the things that we don't want. And the universe is always listening to us. If we don't take action on the things that we want, the universe will handle it for us. But sometimes not in the way that feels good and sometimes not in the way that is ideal. But that's really to say that if we don't take action, it will happen. But we just get to be clear about how we want it to happen.
Oh my God, what an incredible journey. And I'm so glad that you covered like what you think happened, like this soul upgrade, because I was like, what happened during that time? I'm really curious as well, like outward looking in or listening in, should I say, it sounds like there was also a kind of self-love piece there of like needing external validation. Like, I am lovable, I am whole, I am worthy. How did the incident shift that sense of your self-love, and what's that journey been like?
Thank you for that question. Yeah, it was interesting because it was like I had this knowingness inside of myself that I don't think I connected. Because of the way that my brain was working and not working at that time, I think I didn't really connect the cart before the horse thing. It was like this cyclical thing that was happening where there was this outpouring of love. And when I went home, I was in the hospital for a week. And when I went home, I was brought into my room. My whole room was covered in banners. The school had signed this massive butcher paper banner. I had so much love, cards, balloons, stuffed animals, flowers. It was just such an amazing outpouring of love that how can you not see that? How can you not identify and realize, okay, this is a message that's being given to me. I actually do matter. And it was because I was asking the universe for evidence. And I didn't even know that's what I was doing at the time. I just was thinking these thoughts and wishing that I could have some kind of validation of some kind, somehow, some way. And it's like we attract what we are. And we attract what we think. And it's more than attracting what we want. It's truthfully, we attract what we think, we attract what we are. And I wasn't able to shift that. And so the universe, I needed a big, huge knock on the head, clearly, for me to really shift that. And so what I want to say is, for all of you who are listening, you don't need to have some kind of an accident for you to realize, literally just listen to what I'm saying. It's, if we don't make the decision for ourselves, we get these little taps on our shoulder from source. We get these little taps on our shoulder from God, from the universe. And then we have a little whisper in our ear. And it's these things that are, if things aren't flowing, if things aren't happening, we got to realize that we're the lowest common denominator. It's not because we're not worthy. It's not because we're stupid or we're not qualified. It's things are not functioning or flowing because there's something about our ways of being that's not co-creating with source energy in a way that's available for us. And if we keep trying to do things and force things to happen at a speed and a rate that we want it to happen on our timeline, and we're trying to make it happen in a way that's not for our highest good, well, then it's not going to happen. And so we got to be able to look at who's doing the doing? Who am I? And that really is to ask yourself, who am I being as I'm doing this thing? Who am I being as I am wanting to manifest my dream life? Am I showing up in such a way that it is a direct response to what I want to have happen? Am I showing up as the highest version of myself? And so I realized through all of this that, wow, oh my gosh, I must be worthy if I'm getting all this love. I must be worthy if the marquee at the school says, "Welcome back, Jenna Phillips," when I come back. And I just felt so much support, and I really worked hard and I applied myself, and I graduated with the highest GPA that I'd ever had. And because I really applied myself, and I got to really see that if I focus on something and if I put my mind to it, I can make it happen. And yes, obviously you love manifestation. We are all about manifestation, but I think that what gets missed out on is action. And the word action is in law of attraction. And have I manifested crazy things literally just by thinking about them? Yes, of course I have. And also it's because of how I show up, and it's because of how I be in my actions that brings those things together much more quickly.
I love that you are talking about this because I literally bang this drum so often about the action piece.
Yep.
I had a question and then I got super excited about that part. The question I was going to ask is, how does this fit with, I guess I'm going to broaden the question out. How does it fit with spirituality? Because I do feel like there is a slight tendency with spiritual teachers to talk about manifestation or co-creation as if it's just a very passive experience. And I guess bringing my question down here, where do you see the line? Where's the line between like you're hustling and you're forcing and you're taking aligned action and this is actually the thing that is supporting the manifestation? Because I think that is the bit that's hard to, and I still struggle with this. So I would love to know your answer to this.
Yeah.
I still struggle sometimes with, hang on, am I taking the action that is required of me right now and listening to these nudges and these whispers, or am I forcing?
It's a very fine line. I think that the most important thing that we get to identify as we are taking action when it pertains to our purpose or our empire that we're wanting to build or our impact we're wanting to make is, what is my internal experience? What's my inner conversation as I am in this action? Is it, I need to fucking make this money because I currently don't have it, or, you know, I'm stressed out and holy shit. And if we're going to be co-creating from that space, then it is going to be from a place of force, and it is going to be from a place of hustle and adrenal fatigue and breakdown and burnout and all of that.
Yeah.
But if we are operating from a place of absolute joy, would we do that thing for free for the rest of our life? If we never got paid a single dollar for doing that thing, but we still would show up and doing it anyway because it brings us so much joy. For me, it's facilitating retreats. Like, I would literally show up every damn day and facilitate the retreats that I facilitate, which I'm now passing the baton to somebody else to develop her and her leadership. So I have more space to be my artist and all of that. It's, we just get to be so super clear about the power of our vibration and our frequency that we're putting out. And I've had clients that are feeling so stuck and they're having a hard time with their launches and like their stuff isn't converting and all of that. And I always ask, who's doing the doing? What's your thought process as you're moving through these motions and as you're wanting to create this stuff? And if you are coming from a place of scarcity, you got to check yourself so quick, because if you're operating from that place, the frequency of scarcity and lack is going to be on those products and on your launch. And then people are going to pick up on it. It's when you're not quite sure what it is, but it's just, you don't quite click with someone and there's like this feeling, you're like, I don't know what it is. She's saying all the right words, or he's saying all the right things, or he's doing the right things or whatever, but that's just not my leader. That's just not my person. That's not my coach. That's not my offer. And so it's just really important to remember the power of our thoughts and what it means to be in alignment with our frequency and ultimately the things that we desire and the outcome that we desire. And joy and curiosity are the most potent ways to manifest what you want. And anytime we get finite about anything, even if it's, okay, I'm wanting to manifest XYZ and we're finite about it looking a certain way, then we're cutting off that very thing from being brought to us. I mean, I manifested my husband through my actions, but also through a decision that I wasn't yet willing to make. And so I wasn't doing anything. I was in my attraction. I was being the magnetic frequency for that which I desired. But I also I got to make different choices about my actions that ultimately lined me up for that.
Oh, there's so many bits I want to dive into here. Firstly, I love your answer to this. I also want to build upon the idea of scarcity and lack, because I know we've talked a lot about abundance and money. That scarcity and lack isn't always about abundance or money in those kind of examples. Because another one that I see, and another one that I think I've had to work through as well, is like a self-worth piece where there's a lack of self-worth or confidence or believing in yourself. And I've working with startups, seen so many different iterations of this, but it's still a frequency of lack. It's still a frequency of scarcity. The second thing I want to know is like, what decisions did you make differently? Because I know there's going to be people listening who are like trying to manifest their partner right now. What decisions did you make? Because Brad's I fucking love him and I love you both together. Like the life that you've built together, the fact that you work together is so like incredibly impressive as well, to have such a strong relationship in both. What decisions were you making differently to bring in this incredible man?
I'm going to go back to your question about scarcity and lack. So I actually manifested Ben Stiller when I was poorer than I had been in a very long time.
Yeah.
I was in a relationship with a very dominating, jealous, controlling man who it was, I knew that the relationship was not for me.
Yeah.
But I'd lived in Spain for about 7 months, and I was dating my boyfriend back home, and we're trying to make it work.
You lived in Spain either. Where
You didn't know
no,
what?
No,
How
where
did
were
you
in
not know
Spain?
this? Oh my God.
I knew Ben Stiller, but I didn't know about Spain.
Okay.
Where were you in Spain?
I was in San Sebastian in the Basque Country.
Of course you fucking were.
I was there
Oh my
for 7
God.
months.
Okay, I'm just putting more pieces together here. Okay,
Para
sorry.
7
You've been living in
meses,
Spain.
yo estuve en el País Vasco solamente para aprender español y disfrutarme y comer la comida y estar con la gente. Oh my gosh, it was incredible. It was just the most amazing. You didn't know I spoke Spanish? Maybe you did.
No, I knew the boys were speaking
Right.
Spanish, so I assumed you could speak Spanish, but that's so hot as well. I'm like, babe, I'm like, this is so cool.
Yo hablo castellano. Sí, yo hablo español, pero específicamente castellano. So it's like I had to basically learn Spanish all over again because when I moved there, I remember taking classes and I was like, what's up with the lisp? And my teacher got so offended. He's like, it's not a lisp, it's a pronunciation. I'm like, okay, all right, got it, pronunciation. Like,
I know this because my dad always used to say like, gracias. And we're like, what are you doing? And it's how you pronounce it, gracias. Kind of like,
Gracias. Yeah. The C's and the Z's. So cerveza, that's a super fun one. But it's
there, right?
That's beer. See, you speak Spanish, girl.
I got a few words.
You know it. No, but clearly we just get to go to Spain together. It's the most exquisite place. I was literally living on the beach and I was taking classes 5 days a week, and then it would stay light until 9 p.m.
The dream.
Oh, it was incredible. I met so many amazing men and lived my best life, and just I became a woman there. It was the most incredible experience to have a different perspective of the United States, because before I'd never really traveled. I just went over the border to Mexico, just went over the border to Canada, traveled but not really, then moved my best friend to Spain for 7 months to go to school and just live our best life and travel over Europe. And I was like, oh, okay. And this was 2004. So this is a little bit after 9/11, and I had this whole perspective of the United States that I didn't even know was available for me. And it just opened my eyes, and I just got really curious around just the way that the world works. I think it's one of the most important things for individuals is to travel and experience different cultures, because if we're finite about one perspective, then we're missing out on so much. So anyway, so I'm living in Spain, trying to do this long distance thing, and I was like, but there's all these great men here, so maybe not. We're going to put a pause in this relationship. So then I moved back to LA, and then we tried to revive the relationship. And it was at a time where I knew that I was available. I wanted to create some kind of an important purpose I didn't know what it looked like, but I really love fitness. I discovered by living in Spain, because we walk everywhere and the food is incredible. And meanwhile, the food in the United States is basically poison and all the things. And we don't walk here. It's not really part of our culture. And so
that shook me when I first came here.
Oh yeah.
I was like, I like walking, and I'd been living in London. So I walked everywhere. And I was like, what do you mean you have to drive?
Yeah.
Your step count drops instantly.
It is so crazy. So I noticed when I moved over to Spain, I only required one type of insulin. So I was taking 2 different types of insulin. I was taking a 24-hour insulin, and that's the basal insulin. And then for those of you who are listening to type 1 diabetic, you understand what I'm saying. And then during meals, you take bolus insulin. And so I only needed to take insulin at meals because I was moving around so much every day. I was walking to and from everywhere. I was swimming in the ocean. I was dancing 3 nights a week. I mean, I was so active. I lost 20 pounds when I moved there. It was just a whole thing. I realized the importance of focused movement and also being in the practice of joy and living in joy, because Spaniards, man, they love life and so I really had a different perspective, moved back to the United States, and then I started to need to take that other insulin. And so then I started gaining weight again, and I was like, oh, okay, I need to make fitness a part of my life. Yeah. So that's how I got into the world of fitness, and I loved it so much. And I was in a relationship with this guy. We were living in this little tiny shoebox of an apartment in West LA. We had bars on the window. It was like, we had this family who lived above us, and the kid would just scream and cry all day, every day. It was horrific. It was literally absolute hell. And I didn't have the financial means to move out on my own. And I kept asking the universe for an exit. I said, I just need an exit. I'm not attached to what it looks like. I just need an exit. And I'd been a certified personal trainer for 1 month, and my classes were totally filling up, and I was in action being a personal trainer and teaching Pilates and having amazing classes and just being fully self-expressed and really loving what I was doing. And then one day, Sebastian Legree, who I was one of the first teachers at his very first studio ever in West Hollywood, who now Legree Method and Legree Fitness and like
huge.
all over it. But like I was his protege and he fully brought me up. And then one day he comes up to me and he says, hey, do you want to go on location for 4 months and train Ben Stiller? And I was like, yes, that's actually exactly what I want to do because that's my exit.
Yeah.
And I went on location and I knew that my boyfriend was going to have a really hard time with it. And he was devastated. He thought it was something that was happening to the relationship versus something that was happening for me. And it was a huge opportunity, of course. And he wasn't supportive. And one day he went to work and when he was gone, I moved all my things out and brought all my stuff to a girlfriend's house and packed a bag and went to New York. We were in New York for basically 1 month. And I was put up in a ridiculous penthouse suite with a chandelier. I remember walking through the door. There was this big, huge fruit basket. I had a pillow menu. This was I was up on the Upper East Side. Because the whole film crew was on the West Side, but I was far away from Ben. So he basically moved me closer to him.
Yeah.
I was like 2 or 3 blocks away from his hotel. And he basically rented out the whole upper floor of the Four Seasons Hotel. So he just had all this privacy and turned one of the rooms into a gym. And we had the Pilates machine in there. And so it was just, it was like rags to riches. It was like an instantaneous upgrade because I was so not attached to what it looked like. I was so super clear about the purpose I wanted to fulfill. I wanted to be on purpose. I wanted to support people. I wanted to change people's lives. I wanted to be on this massive mission to make a big difference in people's lives. And so that was really clear. How it was going to happen, I didn't know, but I just was, again, I left it up to God and I said, just please give me an exit. And that was it. And so we were in New York for a month and I walked everywhere and I was making so much money. I think I was making at that time, it was a lot of money. I was 23 years old. I was making $1,700 a week and I had no bills. That's a lot of money.
I'm living in a hotel.
I had no bills. I just went shopping and lived my best life. And it was just an incredible opportunity for me to be in the experience of abundance. And then we went to Vancouver. We were in Vancouver for 3 months and it was just more of the same. I had a beautiful penthouse hotel room and it was incredible. It was awesome. And then word got out about me being the best personal trainer. And then I got Ben Stiller in the best shape of his life. And then I trained Jeremy Piven and the Marciano family, Saudi Arabian royalty, Katy Perry, Mark Hoppus from Blink-182, Motion City Soundtrack, Mason Musso, all these musicians. I was working with a lot of musicians at one point. And it was just, these clients were just falling out of what felt like thin air.
Yeah.
But I really understood the power of energy. So I would manifest clients if I'd have stacked up laundry or I'd have mail stacked up or whatever, just unfinished things. When I would move that energy and I would just not allow it to hang over my head anymore, then I would get an email. Hey, are you available to train Zoe? And oh, hey, I'm looking for a personal trainer. So I learned the power of energetics. I learned the power of working with energy in our environment to just create openings for more energy to come in. And so I love to purge. I'm always purging. And Brad's, hey, I can't find I'm like, hey, I was a tornado last night. If you leave it out, it's going in the trash.
Fucking love this. And also, you got to close those loops.
Yeah, it's true.
Don't close those loops. It's leaky energy.
That's right.
Shit lying around is blocking your energy.
100%.
I'm so with you on this.
I'm so glad that you know that and you understand the power of that because it's just oftentimes it's that simple.
Yeah.
I manifested $26,000 that a woman owed to me. It was taking months and months. She owed me all this money. And she was just coming up with all these reasons why she wasn't paying me and all of that. And so I had these boxes stacking up in my office and Amazon boxes of things that I was going to return, but just didn't want to get to it because it was just a pain in the ass. And so I thought to myself, I was like, me knowing what I know about energy and me knowing what I know about things being unfinished, I will manifest this money the second I return all these boxes. And I packed up the boxes and brought them to various places, Whole Foods and the UPS store. And within 3 minutes after I dropped off the very last box, she's, hey, just want to let you know, I wired the money into your account, gave you an extra $1,000. It was actually $25,000 that she owed me, but I gave you an extra $1,000 for all the trouble. Thank you so much for your patience. And it's when we make up our mind about something, then we start to activate. We put that rocket of desire out into the universe. And if we're in curiosity, because I was like, I wonder how quickly that money would manifest into my account after I just finally released these boxes, because I know the power of energy. And so that was super fun. But back to your question about Brad, at this time in my life, I met Brad about 12 years ago, and I had failed relationship after failed relationship. And the story I kept making up was, I keep picking the wrong men. I can't pick the wrong guy, and they must be taken. They're all either gay or taken. They're all either married or no longer available. Who knows? But I just made up the story that there are no good men left. And so I found myself in a somatic training called Grace, which is an amazing training that we have at ALA and I've done this training 18 times. Like, I've literally been in the somatic practice so many times because there's always a new lesson every single time I'm in it, because it's just, even though there are a lot of the same principles are taught, it's different every single time. But anyway, so the first time I'm ever in this training, and it's a lot of movement. You're moving your body and you're embodying different modalities of your masculine, your feminine, how to hold plank in like theoretical plank when shit hits the fan, how to be neutral when everything is chaos all around you and you don't want to completely get knocked off your track. Yeah. So I'm in this training, and the very thing that I remember more than anything else of this training was I raised my hand. I'm like, Krista, I just don't understand. Please explain to me why I cannot find a guy. I'm successful. I'm pretty. I'm funny. Like, I know that I'm awesome. Like, where is my guy? Yeah. And she leans in and she goes, stop doing this. Because I'm like, so masculine. Yeah. And I was in my overachiever. I can do anything and I don't need a man. And that was a big thing, because I would literally go on dates. Not only would I try to pay for my food, I would also try to pay for his to prove to him, I'm not here to take your money. I'm not here to try, like, I got mine. So independent. I don't need you. I would open my own door. I would, as much as possible, completely emasculate any potential possible suitor. Yeah. No space was created for him to be in his masculine, because I was on a hunt. I was looking for my person. And so I was like, okay. So I decided at this training, and I journaled in my journal, I said, I'm going to be found by my person this year. And I was on Match.com and eHarmony and like all these different websites. This is before the action. That was the action. Yeah. But I had deactivated my account because I had become so crazy about it. It was like a part-time job. I was scouring the internet for my person, and the kind of findings I would get and the kind of random messages I would get were so out of alignment with what I actually wanted. Yeah. But it was because my energy and my frequency was out of alignment with who I got to be in order to manifest the person I wanted to be in a relationship with. So I was manifesting all these results. I was like, this ain't it. He's not it. Absolutely not. Oh my God. So I just killed it. I just deactivated my account, but then I went back home and I activated my account, but I just existed on the site. I did not do anything. So 3 days later, Brad found me on Match.com. He sent me a message. He was the first one to initiate communication. And I was like, who's this guy? He's funny. Oh my gosh. And the biggest thing was, if you cannot know the difference between there and there, I cannot text with you. I'm a grammatical Nazi, insane, OCD, crazy person. If you don't know the difference between all these grammatical things, I listed all of them, literally every single one, then don't even bother. And he made it a very clear, intentional purpose of making sure that he knew that he was smart and intelligent, and we could have a texting conversation that would not make my skin crawl. But Brad, he's hilarious. His one-liners are just over the top. Yeah. But that was it. And so I set down the sword, I set down the armor, and the decision I made was, I'm worthy of being found. I don't need to go find my person. And that's the same that's happened with clients. Just knowing that I'm worthy of manifesting celebrity clients. I'm worthy of working with people who already are making a big impact, and I can support them in making a more impactful impact.
I adore this. There's so much that I still want to ask you. So I'm so grateful we've got the wind down, because it's going to be a juicy wind down.
Can't wait.
But the one thing that I want to ask right now, to tie up some of the things that we've spoken about here, is with this healing journey that you've been on, and I'm going to ask you more about postpartum, black mold in the wind down. How has your art, how has the music been part of that healing journey for you personally?
Well, I would say definitely, for all of you listening, go listen to my music, go listen to the songs. They're on Spotify.
God, that's a given. Thank you. They are incredible. Thank you. Insane. Listen to it in the morning is like my pro tip, because if you put that on first thing in the morning, you reset your entire day.
Oh, thank you so much for that. I'm so glad that you've experienced that. And what I'm saying in these songs, you got to know that someone who's saying these things can't not know the darkness and the shadows and the depth of the full human experience to be saying those things. I've directly experienced the deepest betrayal. I have directly experienced sexual trauma, head trauma, recovering from the most insane depths of being a human being. And I've gotten on the other side of these things, which every single one of you, if you're listening to this right now, you've already gotten through 100% of your worst days. And we just get to know that these experiences are happening for us. They're not happening to us. And I mean, I've had so many experiences in my life that, and evidence about how on the other side of these experiences, I'm stronger, I'm wiser, I'm more qualified to talk about these things. I'm a better leader. And so we have infinite choices available to us when we experience anything. And really interpretations are up to us because events are going to happen. And oftentimes we can't control the experiences that we have in life, but we can always control our perspective. We can always control how we choose to show up in the face of fear, in the face of adversity. And that's something that I've learned through very hard, challenging tries. And I just really want to let you all know that life can be so much easier if you just make a brand new decision that you've not yet been willing to make. And ultimately that comes down to trust. Just trust the universe and know that you're infinitely provided for.
Oh, I honestly, every time I speak to you, it's just like you're such an embodiment of everything that you talk about. And like you say, you've really been through those darker experiences that have allowed you to get to this place. You can feel how embodied this wisdom is. But I just think you are such a permission slip for other people. I don't think there's any coincidence. The first track was Permission. That was the first one you released, wasn't it?
That was the very first one, yeah.
And I don't think it's any coincidence because I feel like the words that you speak give other people so much permission. And I know we've said it already, but we're going to drop all the links in the show notes. Go get the music on. It is fucking vibey. I just want to, you spoke about this earlier, but like, I just want to double down on this. It is so fucking vibey. Like you are bridging that gap between like, it's like I would have like on my playlist, like mantras, like super like stereotypical woo music.
Just close your eyes and know that you can manifest anything.
I mean, babes, it goes deeper than that. Literally like full mantras. And then it'd be like fun music.
Sure.
You know, that I want to like vibe to. You've literally bridged the gap. The gap has been bridged in such a powerful way. So thank you for doing that. And also you can go listen. It's incredible.
Thanks, girl.
Amazing.